Life is like a box of chocolates. Never know what you're gonna get next. Life is kinda like a chocolate box. Just go ahead and open it. See what you are gonna get. Life is like a box of chocolates. Never know what you're gonna get next. Life is kinda like a chocolate box. Just go ahead and open it. See what you are gonna get. searching so long, and I really don't think I have found my way. I've got many roads to take. Oh, which one will I travel today? Why don't you understand me?
Well, couldn't have timed that any better. It was right at the end of the song. I wrote that song a long time ago, and I never knew why I wrote those words. Those words weren't written down. They were sang the first time I hit play to sing along to it. And at the time I was like, should I even keep these lyrics? Like, what does it mean to me right now? And I just kept them because I told myself one day they'll probably mean something. And yeah, I figured it out. It took a while. I figured it out. In this video, hey everybody, welcome to the show, the Hoary Sheet Show. In this video, I am gonna play a video of, it's titled The Legend of Saint Germain, The History of Nasara, Part 1. And it's from a channel called Clash of Kings Addict. And this video was put out back in October 15th of 2020, and it's got less than 1,000 views. And it's really quite fascinating. I have been wanting to research Saint Germain and what he's all about. What I have discovered so far has been really interesting, and in a lot of ways it seems like I'm this dude made all over again. Like, not gonna lie, I mean, he's all about like healing people, purifying the soul, getting back to oneness with the Creator and God, and saving the world, and true knowledge. He's been into alchemy. He's got a thing for string instruments and piano. He was a musician, and like, those two are my favorite instruments. I love string instruments, love the guitar, and I've been wanting to try some violin and piano. I have a keyboard over here, I got a guitar and a keyboard. Those are my two instruments. I'm all about energy healing and source and Christ consciousness. I mean, everything about this guy, I seem to have in common. And this history lesson goes all the way back from during the times of Francis Bacon, and when he was translating the Bible into the King James Version of the Bible that we know about it today. And I put the thumbnail on this, Saint Germain Temet Nosk. I don't know how to say it. I gotta figure out how to say it. But Temet Nosk is the saying that's over the door of the Oracle in the Matrix movie, and it means know thyself, the Latin translation. And I feel like it's very pertinent for the thumbnail because I am getting to know what may just be myself. I definitely come from this bloodline. My name is de Saint Germain, and that means of Saint Germain. So here we go. And anyway, I hope you enjoy this history lesson. It's the first. I've watched about 3/4 of it, and I had to turn it off because last night I'm sitting there like, oh my God. Like, it got a little crazy. It goes into the creation of the Freemason societies and secret societies and things like that, and why they came about, and who was in charge, who was running things, and the takeover. And oh man, it's a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. And also, I've had this urge to go Breatharian for a while. Because of that experience, I call my Jesus experience, back when something happened to me, and I was just 100% psychic and had superhuman strength and knew everything, everything around me. Like nobody could walk in the room without me knowing literally everything about them. It was very bizarre, and I've come to find out that this is a thing. I don't hear too many people talk about it, and there's probably a good reason why this kind of information is censored, this kind of phenomena. So I'm studying Breatharianism because I think that's what got me there in the first place. And then come to find out, Saint Germain was one of the first teachers to bring Breatharianism to the world as well. So, I mean, all this connecting the dots, ding, 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 bow, this is where I'm at right now. So we're going to watch the full video. It's about 40 minutes, 46 minutes long. And I'm going to stop it maybe here and there to talk about it, and just mainly just to go, wow, and carry on with it. So, hey, Doc Michael in the chat. Thanks for being here. Earth Pond, what's up, brother? Let me read the chat here. I went through a cycle of writing greeting cards to poetry to songs, all within hours. Oh, wow. Nice. Dude, I have the weirdest parallels with Rasputin of all people. Earthpond says, have you seen probably Alexandria's breakdowns on Saint Germain? No. Who's probably Alexandra's? Probably Alexandra. I don't know that person. Doc says, probably Alexander has a great channel. I haven't watched her stuff for 6 or 8 months for a reason. Oh, I gotta check out this person. It's a she? Cool. Maybe she can tell me something more. I'll definitely add that to my list tonight, bro. If you could pop a link in the channel, it'd be fan-damn-tastic. Absolutely. I can't wait for that. I got my night lined up for me, baby. So let's get started here. Let me pull up the browser. In case you're wondering, I have no vodka, so I'm completely sober. It's unfortunate, but probably fortunate. I need to stop drinking anyway. It's okay though. I got major headaches these days. I'm telling you guys, I don't know if it's the 5G switch they clicked or what, but every day has been a headache. I can't really blame it on the caffeine anymore because I haven't had Coke in 2 days. So, Coca-Cola's usually end up giving me headaches. It's probably this tobacco. I'm smoking too much these days. But anyway, I'm fixing all that. Thanks for that link. I'm gonna definitely check that out here at the end of the stream. And all right, here we go. Woo! She dropped another one last week worth the watch. Okay, cool. I'm gonna check it out, brother. So here it is, The Legend of Saint Germain, The History of Hisara, Part 1. I just realized there was a Part 1. I didn't even read that, so there must be a Part 2 to this. This has already been a crazy video here. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and put on my headphones so we don't have any potential echo. And I'm not even sure which way they go. So we're going to hope for the best. It's not like I have to worry about any directional attacks. I'm not playing a game. Right, here we go.
Hey guys, this is Dark Spear. What I wanted to bring this time to my channel is I'll be actually doing a breakdown of a 3-hour video. The video is called Changes on the Horizon by James Rink. He has a YouTube channel called Super Soldier Talk. So if you wanted to go look more into him and do some more research into what he does, you're welcome to go look there to find full context. This documentary is a history, in a way, of humanity and the world's finances, and it ends with one of the most miraculous things to ever happen to humanity. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, speaking of Super Soldier Talk, I mean, I'm starting to believe some of that stuff. I've been through some stuff I can't explain. Nothing can explain what I went through about 1.5 years ago. It's super soldiery. There's no reason why, no reason at all why I was able to kick a nurse 5 feet send her flying off the floor. Both legs came off the floor. She smacks the wall. She lands on her ass, and I sent 2 cops and 3 other nurses running. I mean, they had guns and tasers and everything. I should be in jail right now. That doesn't make any sense. They ran from me. They ran out. They were scared. I don't think they were real humans. Just saying.
But according to James Rink, we are right about to.
Yes, James Rink.
So I'll be breaking this 3-hour documentary into a few parts to make it a little easier to digest and watch. But yeah, so take a look at it. Let me know what you think. Have a little patience and open mind, and just hear the information for what it is and make your own assessment then.
Truth is enveloped in obscurity. Damn right.
In the beginning, humanity walked in service to all there is. From perfection grew ego, which grew into darkness. But the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. Within the summit of man, a change was on the horizon. The lower self wed to the higher, and matter and spirit became as one. So God put a plan into place to once again take dominion over the earth. By the time of the Renaissance, humanity had begun to rise from its slumber. Slowly, mysticism and superstition began to be replaced with science and logic. It is here 400 years ago, at the height of Tudor England, where this story begins.
Oh wow. I don't know much about James. I don't know anything about
A secret marriage
James.
was arranged between Queen Elizabeth I and Sir Robert Dudley. Due to Dudley's
This is also weird. Okay, this is also very strange. Queen Elizabeth. I dated a chick in Canada, like a long distance dating thing for like a year, and she claimed to be a direct descendant of Queen Elizabeth. And I swear this chick looks like she might have actually been a descendant of Queen Elizabeth. Let me show you this picture. If I find a good picture, I'm gonna hit play, but just take a look at Queen Elizabeth here.
political ambitions, the Queen chose to maintain her Virgin Queen status. From this marriage came forth Francis Bacon, who was raised by an adopted family. At the age of 15, while his parents were arguing, he overheard the truth, that he was the future heir of the King of England. All his life, the Queen kept dangling in front of him the mantle of power. To be or not to be, that was his question. Alas, it was not to be. In 1603, Queen Elizabeth appointed King James VI of Scotland to be her successor. Instead of letting this defeat him, Francis chose to rise above his circumstances in the pursuit of scholarly and political interests. He had the King James Bible translated. He wrote the Shakespearean sonnets. He persuaded King James I to charter Newfoundland and was an officer in the Virginia Company. He was King James's Lord Chancellor, and he fathered deductive reasoning, which set the grounds for science and technology to liberate humanity. Secretly, he was a master of the alchemical sciences and the occult. It was here that he began to remember his past lives as the prophet Samuel, Plato, Saint Joseph, Merlin, Roger Bacon, and Christopher Columbus. When he was the prophet Samuel, he helped liberate the children of Abraham from the bondage of corrupt priests and the Philistines. In the 5th century, while Europe was falling into the Dark Ages, he returned again as Merlin to help King Arthur establish Britain into a stronghold against ignorance and superstition, a place where Christ's achievement could flower and devotion to the one source could prosper in the quest for the Holy Grail. It was later in the 19th century when his efforts blossomed, when
Much work. I don't know. It's kind of freaky. I know it's just the actress that's playing Queen Elizabeth, but the actual actress that they got to play this. I don't know why it won't even let me do it. Is it gonna let me do it? No, it's not gonna let me do it. Oh well, forget about it. Let's back it up for a second.
And devotion to the one source could prosper in the quest for the Holy Grail. It was later, in the 19th century, when his efforts blossomed, when the United Kingdom became a place where industry and individual initiative could thrive as never before in 12,000 years. As the medieval alchemist Roger Bacon, he predicted the invention of a hot air balloon, a flying machine, a magnifying glass.
And it's kind of strange, like my dad... Oh, never mind, forget it.
And mechanically propelled ships and carriages. And amazingly, he wrote of them as if he actually had seen them. He believed true knowledge stems not from the authority of others, nor from a blind allegiance to antiquated dogmas, but instead is a highly personal experience, a light that is communicated only to the innermost privacy of the individual through the impartial channels of all knowledge and of all thought. Because of the radical nature of these beliefs, the church imprisoned him, where he, in his Opus Majus, he wrote of a voyage of 3 ships and the discovery of a new world. The sea between the end of Spain on the west and the beginning of India on the east is navigable in a very few days if the wind is favorable. In his next life, as Christopher Columbus, he was inspired by these words, and, along with a prophecy made by Isaiah, he knew a new world would be found whereby God would recover the remnant of his people, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the 4 corners of the earth. Isaiah 11:12. When Francis Bacon became conscious of these incarnations, he sought those hidden treasures he placed away until his rebirth. At the age of 12, Francis conceived of a time when mankind would go through a period of great restoration. In 1620, he placed this vision for humanity in his book, The Great Instauration, in which he formalized how to change the whole wide world through the restoration of true knowledge after centuries of obscurity and neglect. It was here that he first devised a scientific method that ultimately launched a new English Renaissance. Many of his ideas were kept in the shroud of secret societies in order to hide from the prying eyes of church officials. With help from his brother Anthony and some friends who were students at Gray's Inn Law School, they created a secret society known as the Knights of the Helmet. They chose this name from the goddess Athena, who is depicted as wearing Pele's helmet of invisibility and carrying a golden spear of knowledge. The goddess Athena brings about wisdom, intellect, and the moral side of human life. Athena's helmet of invisibility represents her silent war against ignorance and sloth. The Knights of the Helmet also consider themselves invisible warriors against ignorance and sloth, as they secretly worked to expand the English language by creating new literatures not written in Latin, but instead in words all Englishmen could understand, such as found within the King James Bible. In 1611, the King James edition of the Bible was commissioned in order to unite the Anglican and Puritan church leaders. After a long series of edits by nondescript translators, the final draft was handed to King James, who then passed it on to Francis Bacon so that he could revise the Bible into a marvelous piece of literary work which is still being used today. Many of these works were written anonymously under pen names such as William Shakespeare. Francis chose this name because the goddess Athena was known to carry a golden spear of knowledge, which she would use to strike at the serpent of ignorance. When sunlight would strike her spear, it was known to tremble. Thus the people would say she was shaking her spear again, hence the word Shakespeare. In a symbolic gesture, Francis would shake his pen as a spear of knowledge to slay the dragons of foolishness. Written within the Shakespearean plays is a hidden cipher which shows Francis Bacon not only as the true heir of the King of England, but also of Queen Elizabeth's secret marriage to the Earl of Leicester and her preceding 2 sons. For upon his birth, Francis Bacon was given over to Sir Nicholas and Lady Anne, who pleaded with the Queen for the life of the child. Queen Elizabeth rejected her son because she feared her subjects would choose a male heir over herself to rule the kingdom. Some historical documents hint of the secret marriage and her 2 children, such as found within this portrait. However, any talk of this during the time of Queen Elizabeth would have resulted in imprisonment or death. After a happy childhood spent with Sir Nicholas and Lady Anne, on his 12th birthday, he was enrolled in Cambridge University. Mysteriously, Queen Elizabeth provided the funds for his education. At the age of 15, he discovered the true identity of his royal blood. So Queen Elizabeth sent...
All right, so much of this Queen Elizabeth, I can't take it no more. It's just the way the woman that they have doing this. And even some pictures they have, some paintings of the Queen. It's this is the chick that said she had a striking resemblance to that she was like an heir or a descendant of the Queen. So that's the picture I've been trying to find. In some of these pictures, she even looks more like this. It's just the different angles. But the pointy nose, it's kind of freaky. It's kind of freaky because I mean I've spent lots of time FaceTiming her and everything, and I'm like, every time I see the portrait and the pictures, it's like, oh, I keep thinking about what she said. I'm like, oh my gosh, she could be. She's some kind of resemblance.
To France. At his 12th birthday, he was enrolled in Cambridge University. Mysteriously, Queen Elizabeth provided the funds for his education. At the age of 15, he discovered the true identity of his royal blood. So Queen Elizabeth sent Francis abroad to France, placing him at comfortable distance from her throne. While in France, he studied cipher codes to learn new ways to protect confidential information in England, and he also worked with Masonic secret societies, which sought to reform the French language. 3 years later, upon his return to England, he brought back these same ideas and created a secret society known as the Knights of the Helmet, which would ultimately modernize the English language by standardizing the spelling of words. The Knights of the Helmet was part of a larger movement of secret societies found within Rosicrucian teachings, which dated back to the time of Atlantis. The Rosicrucians were a loose-knit group of secret society which believed knowledge or wisdom was eternal and should be freely available to those who seek it. Just like with the Knights of the Helmet, the Rosicrucian secret society was also part of this movement. The Rosicrucian is shorthand for the Society of the Golden and Rosy Cross, which was founded in 1571 to protect Queen Elizabeth after she was excommunicated by the Pope. And secretly, they sought to bring about universal enlightenment through the use of the alchemical process. The Golden Cross symbolized the transmutation of the base elements into spiritual light. The Red Cross symbolized the heraldic color of the metal gold. These colors were often associated with St. George and Archangel Michael, and the rose symbolized the heart of the cross, where one can find love, intelligence, and enlightenment within the human soul. Just like with Athena's helmet of invisibility, members of the Rosicrucian would make silent oaths under the principle of sub rosa, or beneath the rose. They believed it was best to be discreet and conceal some things while revealing others, in order to create a treasure trail to those who seek truth. And as Athena would shake her spear at the snakes of ignorance, so could St. George shake his spear at the dragons of vice. Members of these societies understood if an individual could be a powerful force of change, so could they, in larger numbers, slay the dragons of the world. It was here as a member of the Rosicrucian secret society that Francis Bacon became inspired to write his famous Great Instauration, which would restore paradise on earth through knowledge and virtue. In addition to the Rosicrucian and the Knights of the Helmet secret societies, was the Freemason secret society, whose members passed down the secrets of building the massive cathedrals and castles of Europe. After the death of Queen Elizabeth in 1603, King James succeeded to the throne. During his reign, Francis was promoted to Viscount St. Albans and Lord Chancellor, which was the highest positions of power one could obtain in that era other than the king himself. He was given the task to reform Freemasonry, which, in late Elizabethan England, was more of a social clique for the elite. He sought to change operative Freemasonry of the medieval stone guilds into speculative Freemasonry, that is, a fraternal order of philosophers that would recreate the world as God made it and not as men or the church made it. A place where religious and political strife could be placed aside under its three great Masonic principles of brotherly love, relief for the poor, and seekers of truth. He then redrafted the 9 degrees of the Knights of Templar into 33 degrees, which became the basis of modern-day Freemasonry. Many of these initiations were based on Christian ethics with a focus on the realization of one's own inner Christ consciousness. Francis chose 33 initiations of Freemasonry from a simple Elizabethan cipher, which equaled to the numerical value of his signature. By assigning a number for each letter of the alphabet, the name Bacon equals to 33. Continuing his mission that he first begun as Christopher Columbus,
When I heard all of this, I'm like, oh God, what does this have to do with Saint Germain and Masons? Oh, shit.
persuaded King James to sign the Virginia Charter, which began the colonization of the New World, with England's first permanent colony at Jamestown. Here his Masonic teachings of inner divine potential, freedom, and enlightenment spread, which later resulted in the creation of the United States of America under its Masonic founding fathers. In his book, The New Atlantis, he foretold of a Pacific island where science prevailed over ignorance and superstition. This island had no rulers, but instead a learned council of men who had proven themselves through scientific achievement. He envisioned the New World as this New Atlantis, a place where freedom and peace would reign under a Masonic order without despotic rulers trying to control their fellow man. A place where the heritage of the House of Solomon could once again prosper under a golden age culture of science and logic. By 1620, his literary fame and political success had begun to spread, which created much jealousy amongst his fellow members of Parliament. Eventually, they accused him of corruption, which was later proven unjust. After falling from public grace, he continued his work, secretly reforming the Rosicrucian mystery schools and Masonic fraternities. His motto of "one lives best by the hidden life" describes him perfectly, as his efforts continue to secretly influence humanity. Francis once said, "The great end of life is not knowledge but action." True to his word, in 1626, he faked his own philosopher's death and attended his funeral in disguise with another body in the coffin. He then traveled to the Rákóczi mansion in the Carpathian mountain region of Transylvania, which is now located in modern-day Romania. Here, during the reign of Ferenc Rákóczi I, he continued his studies of alchemy, preparing him for his physical ascension under the watchful eye of Master R, who worked with the great divine director. After making 2 million right decisions, spanning hundreds of thousands of years of incarnations, he was granted Ascension. The highest form of alchemy is not the transmutation of the base elements into gold, but instead, the transmutation of the soul into oneness with the Creator. On May 1st, 1684, he finally mastered these secrets and ascended into the 14th dimension, transmuting his mortal body into an immortal angel, conquering death itself. After the ascension process occurs, normally a soul would choose to move on to serve in higher dimensions. However, Francis chose to join the Great White Brotherhood of Light, who are souls that have vowed to stick with the earth until the day all humanity could ascend. These so-called ascended masters rarely interact with humanity, but Francis chose a different path. He wanted to return back in a human body to teach others how to overcome the laws of the physical universe and to help usher in the coming golden age of humanity. His karmic board granted his request, and he materialized a new body as the Count de Saint-Germain, or the Count of Saint-Germain. He chose his name from the Latin word Sanctus Germanus, meaning Holy Brother.
But did I catch that? Francis Bacon ascended and came back as who we know now as Saint Germain. Okay.
The Count was known as the Wonder Man of Europe, as he would amaze nobility and
What's up,
royalty
mate?
alike, many of which commented on his elaborate shoes studded with $40,000 diamonds and pearls. Amazingly, he was able to turn rocks into diamonds and remove any flaws. He could write 2 poems with both hands at the same time. He could read a book by waving his hand over it. He spoke every language, traveled by thought, and worked for peace. He was an accomplished pianist, singer, and violinist. Those who have known him said he played the violin equal to, or even surpassing the greatest virtuosos of that period. And Saint Germain even remarked that he had reached the extreme limit possible for his talent. He was also known for his artwork and alchemy. He taught Franz Mesmer his fundamental ideas on personal magnetism and hypnosis, and he initiated Cagliostro into the Masonic order. And with his elixir of life and positive thinking, he never aged at all. According to Germain, it is the activity of our nerves, the flame of our desire, the acid of our fears which daily consume our organism. He who succeeds in raising himself above his emotions and suppressing in himself anger and the fear of illness is capable of overcoming the attrition of the years and attaining an age at least double that at which men now die of old age.
That's why there's so much fear porn in the world. It kills us faster. Illnesses, sickness. If I ever get sick, it's like I'm not worried that I'm going to die. I'm not worried that it's going to continue. I just know my body's going to deal with it and I'll be fine. A lot of people let it get to their heads and they get sicker and sicker. I know people that stay sick for a long period of time. I haven't been sick, and I haven't been debilitatingly sick, put down on my ass and need mama to make me a soup because I'm running 103 fever and coughing a lung up for, I don't know, at least 3 years. We've had this COVID crap going on for 2 years now. I haven't caught anything. I was in the hotel in Alabama after Ida and coughing up blood and feeling like my nasal passages in my chest were on fire. I'd never felt that in my life, but I attributed that to the nasty filter that they had in there, which the humidifier was helping, but I was coughing up blood, like a lot of blood in the morning when I would wake up. Like something got me, tried to get in me, and I just went and got like some cough syrup pills, little quercetin cold and cough pills. I just took like 4 or 5 of them at a time, and I was just fine. I was completely numb. I got over it. Took about a week. I never was down. I never was without energy. I just numbed myself right through it. Never worried about it. I'm sure people coughing up blood like I was would have went straight to the ER. I'm dying. I'm dying. I didn't have that fear.
He served as a counselor to kings and princes. He fought against deceptive ministers, and he handed the torch of wisdom to Masons and Rosicrucians alike. Prince Karl von Hesse described him as one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived, the friend of humanity whose heart was concerned only with the happiness of others. He worked closely with royalty to help usher in the United States of Europe. But these plans came to an end when Napoleon saw power for his own demise. Despite this failure, he was instrumental in the creation of the United States of America, which he knew would usher in a golden age which would last forever. After Saint Germain ascended, he remained in Transylvania, but details of this period of his life remain in the cloak of the Shroud of Mystery. Historians hint that he was possibly adopted into the royal house of Hungary as the third son of Francis Rákóczi II, using a different name and identity as a convenient disguise. By the year 1700, Transylvania was conquered territory of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, when Francis Rákóczi II became aware of how Austrian Emperor Leopold had placed his subjects under the bondage of high taxes and oppressive government. He led a successful revolt to liberate his people, but it is unclear what role, if any, Saint Germain played in this plot. Rumors of an elixir of life, which prolonged his lifespan, followed Germain throughout his years. In 1710, Saint Germain appeared in Venice, where he met the musician Jean-Philippe Rameau and the ambassadress to Vienna, the Countess du Genlis. He introduced himself under the name of Marquis de Montferrat. At that time, he appeared to be 40 years old and gave the Countess a memorable gift of this magical elixir that maintained her youth for a very long time. 50 years later,
That sounds like something I would do, and if I was able to, is visit all the queens and give them magic potions.
Countess du Genlis met him once again while visiting Madame Pompadour's house, who was the mistress of King Louis XV. She inquired if his father had been in Venice back in 1710. The Count replied, "No, madame, but I myself was living in Venice at the end of the last and the beginning of this century. I had the honor to pay your court then, and you were kind enough to admire a little barcarolle of my composing." The Countess could not believe it. "But if that is true," she gasped, "you must be at least 100 years old." The Count smiled. "That, madame, is not impossible." Suspecting the Count was less than truthful, Madame Pompadour inquired again about the Countess and her tale of a so-called elixir of life. Germain replied with a smile, "It is not impossible, but I confess, it is likely that this lady, for whom I have the greatest respect, is talking nonsense." Undaunted, Madame Pompadour tried many times to get that elixir, but Germain would not share his secrets. However, he was able to make her a cosmetic which enhanced
Hey, Nora, the narrator has really bad French pronunciation. I don't know, I thought it sounded pretty damn good. I wouldn't know any better.
her beauty. Hints of his true age continued to surround him with intrigue when, in 1723, Saint Germain showed the mother of Countess du Genlis a miniature portrait of his own mother, which he kept on his arm. When she saw a beautiful woman dressed in a costume unfamiliar to her own time, the Countess inquired, "To what period does this costume belong?" The Count merely smiled and changed the subject. If Saint Germain truly had an elixir of life, it would mean he had ultimately mastered the secrets of the philosopher's stone, which medieval alchemists believed could transmute the base metals such as lead into gold. It seemed likely if anyone could have figured this out, it would have been Saint Germain, as he closely worked with the Fathers Lucis and with the Knights of the Brothers of Asia, who studied the Rosicrucian and Hermetic sciences of alchemy, of which the 3 parts of the Azoth constituted the Philosopher's Stone. No one really knows if Saint Germain was truly able to turn lead into gold, but in 1727, it appears he had done just that. These secret money-making techniques were shared with certain German bankers and monarchies in the hopes that the wealth generated would benefit all humanity, but instead, they squandered it for themselves. So, in 1729, he abandoned support of these power brokers and created the World Trust. From its inception, he stipulated that the World Trust would be released by the year 2000. But this is not an easy task to do, as you will soon see. Saint Germain realized humanity would never be ready for the knowledge and technology of the Aquarian Age until mankind could put aside their destructive sciences and religions and accept the heart of which lies at both, that is, to enter one's own heart and harness their own unlimited potential. After the establishment of the World Trust, Saint Germain traveled to the court of the Shah of Persia, where he remained from 1737 to 1742. Here he studied the secrets of nature, of which he learned the closely guarded science of precipitating and enlarging gemstones, which was manifested through psychic powers. The Count's love affair with precious stones was well known among his friends and associates.
Let me figure out how to conjure up a diamond from thin air with my mind, baby, and it's on!
At one point, Saint Germain showed a small box to Madame Pompadour, which contained topazes, emeralds, and diamonds worth at least $90 million in today's money. While in Paris, the aristocracy marveled at his diamond-encrusted shoe buckles, but yet no one could identify him or his great source of wealth. Many years later, Madame du Houssaye described within her memoirs how Saint Germain wore an assortment of diamond rings of great value, and how his watch and snuff box were ornamented with a profusion of precious stones. She also had witnessed Saint Germain remove a flaw from a large diamond which had belonged to King Louis XV, increasing his value from 6,000 livres to 10,000 livres. The king was
Alexander.
never able to get over
Hey,
his
Hank.
astonishment, and would often confide that if Saint Germain could increase the value of gemstones, he must be a millionaire. Yet no one could discover his source of wealth, as he never kept any records or held any traceable bank accounts. He would always stay in fine hotels and apartments, and would always have as much cash available as needed. When a curious minister spent 2 years keeping tabs on him, he concluded that Saint Germain paid for everything in real money, but did not have a source of a financial backing. When Saint Germain was confronted about this, he responded, "I hold the whole of nature in my hands, and as God created the world, I can draw what I want out of nothing." In 1743, he traveled to London, where for 2 years he remained in a house on St. Martin Street. During this time, he conducted many alchemical experiments within his laboratory, probably manufacturing artificial diamonds. He was known to frequently visit the Kit Kat Club, where he would mingle with members of the highest nobility. He astounded members with 2 inventions he was working on, the steam train and steamboat, both of which were predicted by Roger Bacon. 20 years later, James Watt prototyped his idea by building a steam engine, and later, in 1829, George Stephenson built the first public railway operated by a steam train. After his stay in London, he visited his friend Frederick the Great in his castle of Sans-Souci in Potsdam, where Voltaire was also an honored guest. In a letter addressed to Frederick, Voltaire later wrote, "The Count of Saint Germain is a man who was never born, who will never die, and who knows everything." In 1749, while at Versailles, King Louis XV was introduced to the Count by his peer of France to relieve some of his boredom. Soon after, he meets the king's mistress, Madame Pompadour, and becomes a court favorite. The king was captivated by his stories of travel all around the world and his wisdom of the alchemical arts. In a gesture of good faith, Saint Germain gave away his invention of inexpensive dyes, which helped increase employment and wealth of the nation, while lowering the manufacture cost of clothing so that commoners could dress as good as the nobility class. In 1755, King Louis XV recruited him to travel to Southeast Asia to infiltrate the British East India Company as a spy. He journeyed in the same ship as General Robert Clive, possibly as a ship's doctor. Here he became aware of the British schemes to subjugate India at the Battle of Plassey and the recapture of Calcutta. Thanks to his efforts, he saved the lives of many French troops who were protecting the Indian people at that time. When he returned to Europe in 1758, King Louis XV granted him a royal favor for his work in India with a suite of rooms at the Royal Chateau of Chambord in Touraine to continue his experiments of alchemy that King Louis XV sometimes participated in. In a letter written in 1773, Graf Karl Kompenzel of Brussels commented about these alchemical experiments, of which the most important were the transmutation of iron into a metal as beautiful as gold. In 1762, he traveled to Russia in a secret plot which put Catherine the Great on the throne. Then in 1774, he returned back to France to deliver a message to the now crowned Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. Saint Germain delivered a warning of an approaching conspiracy that would soon occur within the next 15 years, which would create a bloodthirsty republic whose scepter would be the executioner's knife. Sadly, this warning went unheeded, and among the final entries within Marie Antoinette's diary, she recorded her ignoring the Count's advice. Between 1774 and 1784, the Count spent his time traveling throughout Germany and Austria, petitioning the monarchies to work together to avert the French Revolution and to create a United States of Europe. Though the monarchies enjoyed being entertained by Saint Germain's marvelous alchemical experiments, neither they nor their jealous ministers wished to relinquish their power to a unified Europe. With his plans in Europe crumbling apart, he then turned his eyes to the now prosperous New World, because he knew America would play a key role in raising people's consciousness into the Golden Age. On a steamy July 4th, 1776, the most influential leaders of the American colonies were locked in Independence Hall, debating whether they should risk a traitor's death by signing the Declaration of Independence. Even though the doors were locked, Saint Germain appeared in the balcony and delivered a fiery speech, calling forth the Founding Fathers to sign that document. He continued, "The words of the Declaration will live in the world long after our bones are dust. To the mechanic they will speak hope. To the slave in the mines, freedom. But to the coward kings, these words will speak tones of warning they cannot choose but hear. Sign that parchment, sign. If the next moment the gibbet's rope is about your neck, sign. By all hopes, in life and death, as men, as husbands, as fathers, brothers, or be accursed forever, sign. Not only for yourselves, but for all ages, for that parchment will be the textbook of freedom, the Bible of the rights of man forever."
Well, today it sure doesn't stand for raising consciousness, but there's people like me trying to turn that around. And we have to raise our own consciousness up to a point where everything we say is right and true, and only true, only that. And I think when people start waking up like that and start lighting fires like that, spiritual fires in other people, not physical fires around the world, destroying things, that's when it will spread like wildfire. Like, there will be a new awakening. There better be, while I'm still breathing.
I would beg you to sign that parchment for the sake of those millions whose very breath is now hushed in a tense expectation as they look up to you for the awful words, "You are free." Unafraid of the repercussions by King George III, these brave men boldly rushed forward and signed their names. So inspired by this speech, John Hancock signed his name in large bold letters so that the king would be able to read it without his spectacles. During the Revolutionary War, Saint Germain was also instrumental in persuading King Louis XVI to appoint the French general Rochambeau over 6,000 troops to serve in George Washington's Continental Army. Historians now agree that this assistance played a critical role in a decisive victory for the American forces. The signing of the Declaration of Independence eventually led way to the liberation of the American colonies into a more perfect union, a place where the virtues of righteousness and freedom could reign under the banner of the United States of America. But trouble was now brewing in Europe. Not only were his plans for United States of Europe crumbling apart, so too was his Masonic secret society, which had now been infiltrated by the satanic faction of the Breatharian Lodge of Freemasonry, who under the helm of a Jewish Rothschild agent, Adam Weishaupt, began to rewrite Masonic initiations based on Luciferic teachings of the Talmud, in which enlightenment would be attained through the worship of Lucifer as the ultimate light bearer. They now dubbed themselves the Illuminati and sought to divide the Goyim, or the non-Jews, through political, social, economic, or religious means.
Whew. So, Francis Bacon, Saint Germain, having anything to do with the Masonic order, that was a good thing at first, but it was overturned by these guys who turned it satanic. Weight off my shoulders. When I finally, I was like biting my nails up until this part of the video going, oh my God. And then I heard that and I'm like, oh good, I didn't, my people, my ancestors didn't screw that up. They didn't, right?
The Rothschilds planned to use the Illuminati and Freemasonry to destroy the masses so that they could take over the world, and to steal all the people's gold so it could be returned to King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. This is why the Rothschilds financed the creation of Israel and why they are considered its patron saint. This was in direct opposition to Saint Germain's version of Freemasonry, in which he envisioned universal enlightenment of one's own inner divine potential, would spread to a small group of initiates, and then in turn to other initiates in a vast spiral of spiritual.
This is like ingrained in my soul that I'm trying to do just that, to figure out how to get back to, I call it my Jesus period, when I knew everything. I knew everything about everything about everything. That was so overwhelming. I didn't need to eat, sleep. I didn't like pee or poo. I didn't do anything. I just sat in one spot and just meditated with all of the knowledge of the world. Like, crazy. Like, it's real. It is a real thing. And I'm totally trying to get back there. And I really think Breatharianism is the way to do it. Breatharianism, meditation, and being perfect in thought and perfect in action. All I'm left with is knowing how to, but to embody that is difficult. Difficult when you have responsibilities and you have a job and you have to pay bills and make money doing things that are of this world, and by their very nature right there, feeding a machine that is not perfect, you are then left with performing unperfect actions. Sucks. That's why the voice told me to stop everything I'm doing. All my games, my career of making videos and lying on camera for companies and stuff. I mean, lying on camera, I might be not lying on camera, but I don't know. It's not my product. It's not my money that I'm making for that company. Who knows where it's going? I don't know where it's going, and therefore I can't trust it. I can't trust any clients I work for using my likeness, my charisma, my on-camera presence, my energy. I have to stop all that. I was told your path to perfection involves stopping 98% of everything that you do. That's why I'm still sitting right here right now. But I'm trying to blend the two paths. I'm going to blend the two paths the best way I can.
Radiation to all humanity, own inner divine potential, would spread to a small group of initiates, and then, in turn to other initiates, in a vast spiral of spiritual radiation to all humanity. But much to Saint Germain's horror, these dark teachings began to spread like a blight within the Masonic lodges. To counteract the Illuminati movement, he recruited a close group of friends, including Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel and Cagliostro, to create a secret society known as the Philosophes, which taught that mankind.
Now, this is something I'm going to have to research right here, the Philosophes. I feel like I've never heard that before. I've never heard anybody else talk about that before. And it goes on to say probably why we haven't heard of anything from them before. So,
to create a secret society known as the Philosophes, which taught that mankind had infinite possibilities and that they must strive to release themselves of physical matter in order to communicate with higher intelligences. But the Philosophes Society never caught on. At the 1782 Wilsonbad Convention, the lodges voted to merge Freemasonry with the Illuminati, thus creating the notorious form of modern-day Freemasonry. 3 years later, at the Great Paris Convention of 1785, he, and along with Cagliostro, Franz Mesmer, and St. Martin, tried in vain to bring reconciliation amongst the Rosicrucians, Illuminists, and Masons alike. Had Saint Germain been successful in redirecting Freemasonry into a philosopher's organization such as the Philosophes, he would have been able to avert the evil chain of events which have since occurred in Bratians. After the convention of 1785, Saint Germain fell into disgrace. This time, the Jesuits had falsely accused him of immorality, conspiracy to create anarchy, and infidelity. As a result, he played an increasingly diminished role within the very society he had founded nearly 200 years prior. Soon after 1785, the Masonic lodges began to systematically erase all traces of Saint Germain from their order, but with one blazing exception. The letter G, which symbolizes the word Germain, can still be found between the Masonic square and compass. Despite Freemasonry's attempts to erase all traces of Saint Germain from their order, his vision presses on. Humanity will be set free from its shackles of
the mind screw right there to know that the G in the Freemason logo stands for Germain.
slavery and death. After the Masonic Schism, Saint Germain worked with his close friend, Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel in Schleswig, Germany, where they would conduct experiments in alchemy. Growing weary of his failed efforts in Europe, Saint Germain sought to remove attention from himself in a more private life. So on February 27, 1784, Saint Germain once again faked his own death. After his funeral, the behavior of Prince Charles became uncommunicative, and he would often change the subject if anyone spoke of the Count. Those who knew the prince closely became convinced that not only was the Count still alive, but it appeared the prince was an accomplice to Saint Germain's pretend death. Most historians believe that the Count had now died at this point. However, he resurfaced once again in order to block the attempts of the Illuminati from toppling the French monarchy. In the 18th century, the Rothschild family had managed to become fabulously wealthy by loaning money to the monarchies, but now they desired to open up new markets. They wanted to capture the other 97% of the population who were not royalty, to create a new class of consumers which could then be enslaved with debt. So they recruited Adam Weishaupt to provide Maximilien Robespierre their plans for a French Revolution. Early one Sunday morning in 1788, Saint Germain visited the Comtesse de Damas, who was one of Marie Antoinette's ladies-in-waiting. He requested an audience with the Queen to discuss ways to avert the French Revolution. When she arrived, the Count told her, "Madame, for 20 years I was on intimate terms with the late King, who deigned to listen to me with kindness. He made use of my poor abilities on several occasions, and I do not think he regretted giving me his confidence." The Count then informed her of a plot by the Encyclopedists and the Duc de Chartreux to overthrow the monarchy. He instructed her to inform the King of this coming conspiracy and requested that the King would not consult with his chief advisor, the Count de Maurepas. But the King ignored his warning and immediately consulted with the Count, and in the midst of the conversation, Saint Germain appeared to confront the Count de Maurepas with his plans to commit treachery, and said to him, "In opposing yourself to my seeing the monarch, you are losing the monarchy, for I have but a limited time to give to France. This time over, I shall not be seen here again until after 3 successive generations have gone down to the grave." The second warning from Saint Germain
Has it been 3? Has it been 3 yet?
came on July 14, 1789, after the Queen said farewell to the Duchesse de Polignac. She opened a letter and read, "My words have fallen on your ears in vain, and you have reached the period of which I informed you. All the Polignacs and their friends are doomed to death. The Count d'Artois will perish." On October 5, 1789, Comtesse de Damas received Saint Germain's farewell letter, in which he wrote, "All is lost, Countess. The sun is the last which was set on the monarchy. Tomorrow it will exist no more. My advice has been scorned, now it is too late." He then asked the Countess to meet him early the next morning, at which she was informed that the time when he could help France had now passed. He continued, "I can do nothing now. My hands are tied by one stronger than myself. The hour of repose is past, and the decrees of Providence must be fulfilled." He then foretold of the death of the Queen, the complete ruin of the House of Bourbon, and the rise of Napoleon. Years after his ascension, Saint Germain had brought much enlightenment to the royal courts of Europe, and thanks to his efforts, the creation of the United States of America. Because of this service to humanity, the Great White Brotherhood of Light granted him the office of the Shohan of the Seventh Ray. According to occult philosophy, the 7 rays are 7 metaphysical principles that govern both individuals and 2,158-year astrological cycles. Our current astrological age of Pisces is dominated by religion and superstitions. Soon, this will be replaced with the age of Aquarius, which will bring about knowledge and wisdom. As director of the Shohan of the Seventh Ray, Saint Germain is responsible for transmuting the old energies of the past in order to bring about the Christ consciousness of the coming golden age of Aquarius. This is why Saint Germain is sometimes referred to as the Cosmic Master of the Age of Aquarius.
Got goosebumps
After he
hard.
became a Cosmic Master, Saint Germain was not permitted to work with any more individuals, with the exception of Napoleon, whom he backed and trained. But when Napoleon misused his power for his own demise, Saint Germain withdrew his support. At the end of the 18th century, his efforts to unify Europe now lied in ruins. While the Rothschilds continued to engulf the masses in their costly wars, the satanic cult of the Illuminati was now rotting out all the Masonic lodges. There was little else he could do but wait for a better time in which humanity would be more receptive to the ideas of a golden age. So he took a break from European politics and settled in Tibet. In 1790, Saint Germain confided his future plans with his Austrian friend Franz Graffer, saying, "Tomorrow night I am off. I am much needed in Constantinople, then in England, there to prepare 2 new inventions which you will have in the next century, trains and steamboats. Towards the end of this century, I shall disappear out of Europe and betake myself to the region of the Himalayas. I will rest. I must rest. Exactly in 85 years will people again set eyes on me. Farewell. While in Tibet, Saint Germain studied under the Trans-Himalayan Brotherhood as a Shabalan master, who were exalted teachers known to possess wonderful powers. Little else is known of this period, but it is likely he could have traveled into the inner earth tunnels of Shambhala to study with other ascended masters. True to his promise, 85 years later, Saint Germain returned to Europe with a new goal in mind. In 1875, Saint Germain convinced the royal families and nations under colonial rule to merge their assets into one account, known as the Combined International Collateral Accounts of the Global Debt Facility. They agreed to do this because they wanted to wait for the right time to release these funds so that it could benefit all the world's people. Only kings or queens, presidents, prime ministers, and in some cases ministers of finance are granted access to these accounts. The collateral accounts contain a minimum of 20 million metric tons of gold, thousands of tons of platinum and silver, and thousands of boxes of precious gems, sovereign certificates, which are collateralized by other mineral wealth, including oil, copper, uranium, and nickel. Plus, there are works of art, sovereign monarch treasures, and ancient treasures, including Aztec, Egyptian, and King Solomon's gold. Saint Germain placed the collateral accounts within the newly created Foundation Divine, which also contains the World Trust created back in 1729. After 250 years of compound interest, the World Trust has now mushroomed into a net worth in excess of $1 quattrodecian, or a 1 with 45 zeros. Enough money to buy a gold cube the size of the orbit of Saturn. So astronomical, most people will not even believe it. These figures may appear to be far-fetched, considering the world GDP is $55 trillion annually. However, governments maintain 2 sets of accounting books, one which is displayed to the public, which contains official data issued by the government, and another secretive version, which is used between sovereign entities. It is this secretive ledger which contains both the collateral accounts and Saint Germain's World Trust. Some of this wealth is stored in different dimensions, but much of it is stored under international treaty custodianship rules within the world's major banking houses. In the case of the collateral accounts, they are held within the institutional parent administration account of the Federal Reserve under the control of the Bank of International Settlements, and in turn Foundation Divine. This wealth is intended to be used to buy out all Illuminati-controlled governments, oil corporations, media conglomerates, banking houses, pharmaceutical cartels, and it would zero out all debt. It is estimated it would cost a minimum of $100 quintillion just to correct the world's current economic problems. In order for these funds to reach the common man, it must travel down through a series of 30,000 different trust funds, beginning with World Trust. The top level contains the World Trust and remains under the trusteeship of Master Saint Germain. Under his orders, the World Court will activate the funding process. Level 2 contains 180 royal trusts, which are under the control of the trustees in various sovereign countries. Examples include the French Trust, the Russian Trust, and the Vatican Trust. Level 3 are the various Illuminati family trusts, which are under the control of the trustees of the world's wealthiest families, including the Warburg Trust, the Rothschild Trust, and the Rockefeller Trust. Level 4 contains the 250 plus corporate trusts under the control of the trustees from the world's most powerful companies and corporations, including General Electric, Lockheed, and AT&T. Level 5 contains the wealth from enlightened robber baron children, which was placed aside to be used for the benefit of all humanity. These are known as the Prosperity Program Trusts and Bankroll Programs, and they are managed by the IMF under the guidance of Saint Germain. Altogether, there are 72 various bankroll programs, including Breatharian, Omega, and Freedom. The largest trust fund is Freedom, and this must be funded first. When this happens, Saint Germain's wealth will finally reach the hands of all humanity. But if a problem occurs in this chain, the funding window will close. As the funds travel through each level, they must be signed off by 4 to 5 trustees per trust. If the trustees decide to block the money, then the funding process comes to an end. With each trust level, the trustees must only use certain designated safe banks and sign the proper documents with only certain designated banking personnel at those banks. Should this process be activated and then stalled by deceitful bankers or trustees, or if the deadline for funding certain trusts is not met in a timely manner, then the funding window will close. But this is the problem. Members of the Bush and Clinton families have been blocking the release of these funds because they are overseeing many of the trusts as trustees.
Wow. Wow. That is a lot to take in. A lot to take in. Like, oh, that sounds like a big financial mess. And I've been hearing about this Nasara stuff, this whole money back to the people thing for a while, and it did lead into the Bush and Clinton like agendas. It's just bizarre. Doc saying this is why the Germans were studying all the Tibetans up in the Himalayas. And during Vietnam, there were missions inside the Himalayan mountains. I wouldn't doubt it. Some of this wealth is stored in different dimensions. Yeah, that was interesting. I found the Rothschilds and Rockefellers were both signatories on my personal account with the Federal Reserve. Holy shit. Yeah, a mess. You know, like these people can't live forever. So like they're going to have to pass down this knowledge to the younger generation and hope that they can be trusted and not persuaded otherwise. And that's why saving this generation, saving the brainwashing from happening to our children is going to be one of the most important things we need to be doing. Like spreading truth and waking up people is great, but like if we make sure the children aren't corrupted and they know what's going on in some kind of way, then I don't see how any of this can last forever. You know, it might take a while, but this could happen. This could happen in our lifetime. I mean, I'm only 35. These people, Bushes and Clintons, all, you know, they're in their 60s. They're going away in, you know, the next 30 years. They'll be in pretty rough shape, especially if they keep spraying the skies and being bombarded with all the electro waves, all the damn 5G and stuff coming out. Like we're all suffering from that, but they'll go first. Man. No, I mean, I don't even know what to think. Like, and then there's a part 2. I'm gonna save part 2 for another stream if I can find it. I'm not even sure where it is. Wonder if it's on his channel right here. See if I can.
Hey guys.
See if I can find it on his channel. Let's just type this 2. See, you show me a whole bunch of bullshit first. It's no surprise.
Hey guys.
Oh wow, oh my god. Part 3, part 4, part 5. This will be a long series, fellas. This will be a long series. This dude has done some research. There it is, part 2. Part 2 is going to be just a 10-minute episode. So I'm going to do like part 2 and 3 on the next stream. It's about damn time for their tyrannical reign to end. I can't even speak right now. Yes, it is. It is time. And we are in such an age of deceit and confusion and misinformation and lies that the only way we're going to figure out what the hell's going on is to become one with the Creator, so that we know everything and we won't have to ask questions and seek out these answers and read books anymore. We'll know exactly what's going on and who's behind it and how to go about making this change. But you're not going to be even allowed access to this kind of information without perfecting your soul. And this is I'm going to say it because this is what I believe. It's going to mean purifying your soul by way of literal exorcism. all the demonic entities in you, controlling you to do things that are imperfect rather, and not of the ways of our own Creator. We have to rip those out of us, start kind of new. This is where you get the whole spiritually reborn thing. You have to become pretty much reborn with the breath of God, doing His bidding, and slowly you'll awaken to having, I'm hoping, having the experience that I had. I just don't know what caused me to go through it in the first place, other than I didn't eat food for that whole week before, and I consumed at least copious amounts of cough syrup one night, and gold. Was it fasting and gold? I know it couldn't have been the cough syrup. That shit's at Walmart. That's too easy. But gold's hard to come by. Fasting's hard to do. I know when I fast, my spiritual gifts go through the roof. I can damn near tell who's about to call. I wake up with panic attack energy, and I go to grabbing my phone and checking on my people. Hey, are you okay? What's wrong? And usually I'll get the, oh my God, I'm having such a bad day. This happened. I'm like, okay, calm down, because it's too much for me. Like, that's how receptive I am. And I've noticed that increases if I'm not eating. And I've been thinking about this whole not eating thing. And, people say there's parasites and worms and stuff in us, and these worms give off like cravings for food and sugar and things like that. And is it our job to purify our bodies first, kill off all these physical entities, and then work on the non-physical entities? I think so. At least that's the road that I'm taking. And I mean, when I say I'm taking it, like I told myself already, I'm not going back to the grocery store to buy anything from this moment on. Like, I'm going to try not to buy any more food. I'm going to eat all the food I have here. Anything that I crave, that I want right now, like my last pizza, my last steak, my last can of soup, my last candy bar. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is it. Whatever I got in here is it. I'm not buying no more food. I don't want to stay here forever. Like, somebody asked me, do you want to live forever, in the chat? I'm like, no, not in this time. No. But I know how good, I know how depressed I am about this life. My situation and my worldly desires are not met, and it's miserable. But when I was having that experience, like I call it my Jesus experience, I had no desires. I was happy, 100% happy. I was whole and complete at that time. The only other time I ever felt that way was when I did a self-exorcism a couple of months back. And I documented that if you want to see it. Self-exorcism is the video on my channel. It'll tell you that whole story I went through. That whole experience I went through. I documented that. And I was not a person, as much as I've been through, as much things I've gone through, I still did not believe that demons can fully possess people. I didn't believe that until like a year and a half ago. And that changed my life. I mean, I held a demon in my hand. I ripped it out of somebody and watched them calm down. From a freak out panic attack, I pulled it out and I held this thing, this ball of, it was at the time contained. And if I could put a color to it, it had a lot of black in it and it had a lot of red in it. And it was like disgusting and goo. And I threw it away and it came back with a vengeance. And it controlled that person's body. And I got physically attacked. I had cops at my door and an ambulance. And at one point was in the cop car in handcuffs. But I was able to access that information, that Christ consciousness. And I had the words to say to get taken out of the handcuffs and put in the ambulance instead. And her ass got put in the cop car. Like, that's the kind of magic you can do when you have, when you're embodying the highest form of love. And when you can really embody that, you are given lyrical gifts. You have the tongue that will speak things into existence. And really it was an amazing thing to have to go through. It wasn't, the most fun thing to go through, especially when you planned on just tripping and having fun, listening to some Tool music or something that night, but that didn't end up that way. And during that experience, when they kept me in a box for my 8 hours in there, they wanted nothing of me but my blood. They wanted my blood. They wanted to study what the hell was going on in me, and I'm sure they sent that to some underground Illuminati lab after that. I mean, they wouldn't even give me water. I had to use the words in a like, kind of like, if you don't do this, you're opening yourself up to civil litigation, lawsuit words, just so they could give me water. And that worked. I was able to, like the video said, Saint Germain was on the balcony speaking out about signing the Declaration of Independence or whatever, and the doors were locked. And so that's like indicating, like, nobody let him in. Like, he unlocked the doors. I was able to unlock the door that I was caged in 5 times. They kept locking me in. I was able to go invisible, unlock it, and walk out and stand in the lobby like nobody cared, until I looked over at the security guard that his sole job was to make sure I didn't come out that room. And I'd give him the eyes from across the room. I'd be like, I'm out. Hi, I did it again. And he was like, it boggled his mind. How the fuck did you get out? He'd come over and he'd shove me back in. It was great. I didn't fight him or anything. I was very intrigued by how I was able to do these things, but I never let even that get to me. I was mostly there only to make sure that the woman that I had taken a demon out was still okay. Because the only reason that I was still there was to make sure that she wasn't screwed with. And that was just an intense day. And when I got, they tried to stick me again with something. When they all came in and surrounded me, they stuck me with something, which, as soon as I felt it enter my left rib cage, I threw it at the wall, kicked the nurse 5 feet. She smacks into the wall. I mean, her whole body lifted off the floor. I'm not a jiu-jitsu artist, so my legs are the weakest thing in my 113-pound 5'3" self. And I kicked her off the floor, sent her into a wall, and sent the 2 burly security guards with tasers running, and the rest of the 3 nurses running. Nobody tried to hold me down. I wasn't angry and vicious and wild and rah, rah, until they stuck me with that thing. And when they stuck me with that, I overpowered 4 sets of hands pushing me down from an Indian-style position on the bed. I raised up with all my lower body strength alone, overpowered all the hands through that, kicked. And I mean, all this happened like in a snap. Like, it was like super speed, superhuman strength. Like, I'd probably be scared if somebody had done that. If I was in charge of holding some little guy down with 4 other people, like, it's going to be no problem. And then he overpowered everybody and slung somebody fucking 5 feet. I could probably be scared too. But the reason is, I mean, the wild part about that is nobody came back to wrestle me. Nobody aimed a gun at me. Nobody aimed a taser at me. Nobody smacked me with a baton. Nobody arrested me. I was able to undergo that experience and get set free. Explain that. Somebody please explain that to me. The nurse gets up off the floor. She says to me, I can get you for a felony for attacking hospital staff. I was like, no, you can't. What that was self-defense. And she got frustrated and she walked out, because that was true. When you speak truth, you see, the evil forces cannot win. And I've been shown that. I've been shown that if you are not in your body to hurt another body, and you pity the anger coming from someone at you. You have a sense of pity, not a sense of vengeance or revenge or, oh, you hurt me, I'm gonna kick your ass. No, that's not. You don't get superpowers like that. They might be trying to hurt you, but you have to understand that that's their demonic entities inside of them, controlling their rage into making them attack you. And if they attack you, it's okay. You're not going to feel it. Been there. They try to wrestle you, you'll have more strength than them. It doesn't take muscle. I've been there. So this is why I believe the stuff that I believe. I've had experiences like that I cannot logically explain. And I think it has something to do with embodying the highest form of unconditional love. That's the secret. That is the secret. And to get back to that mindset, I hope to do it completely sober. I'm going to start off the process with a psychedelic to rip whatever demons have gotten back into me, and they've affected me by my dreams and sent me back into a spiral of imperfection. I'm haunted in my dreams. I think there is quite a succubus fucking with me in my dreams. And I've taunted her a bit, and she's taunted me back. And I didn't ever want to believe in this crap either. But she's got a wicked little sense of humor. And I had a dream the other night. I was in a church, big cathedral, and I was not physical. I was like kind of floating around and observing, and I saw this person. And you know, in dreams, when you see a figure in a dream, but it's like you might see them as somebody physically, but you get the feeling it's someone else. Like I saw Jesus as me in a cathedral, just proclaiming to everybody, or maybe it was an empty room. There might have been a few people, something, but he was just basically yelling out in a complete dismay that nobody is listening to his word. Nobody is paying attention. Nobody cares. And they're choosing to make wrong decisions. He was so sad. He was so sad about that. He wasn't mad about it. He was sad for everybody. He was sad. And I mean, to dream of Jesus that was the first, but for it to be me, look like me and everything, I was like, I've been having dreams of like scripture coming to me. Psalms 12:13 came to me in a dream the other day when I tried to, literally, I laid my head down that night and I was asking God to take me in my sleep. I want to die. I don't want this anymore. Please take me. Please kill me in my sleep. And he sent me a dream that I was being framed for murder and saved by some special ops forces in, I don't know, Guatemala or something. And everybody was coming up to give me gifts, and they were crying and like I was some savior. And they were sticking boxes in the Jeep that I was rescued with, and on the packaging it said Psalms 12:13. And if you go read Psalms 12:13, it's a little bizarre. A little bizarre. To go to sleep that night and get a message in your dreams that basically says, "Consider and hear me, O Lord my God. Lighten my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death." It's like, take away my pain and my sorrow, or I'm going to want to die. Came to me in my dream, dude. I didn't know there was a Psalms 12:13. I don't read the Bible. I know not to read the Bible. Maybe my bloodline had a lot to do with writing the damn thing. As we saw in that video with Francis Bacon and ascending to Saint Germain. And I'm a Saint Germain. I might have did some kind of way in the past help put those very words, translate those very words into the Bible. Oh my God, I don't know. It's a wild journey. Very wild journey, my friends. I'm gonna read the chat a little bit here. Let me see if I can get the chat on my screen. I think I have an actual screen here. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be working. It looks like it caught only the last bit of the chat. Maybe it's just like I don't know quite how I have that working, to be honest. Guess I should probably put it like this. But anyway, was I saying? Oh, let me read the chat. I'm gonna check out probably Alexandra's video after this stream. We are told of the burning of the library at Alexandria, but it appears that it was just the tip of the iceberg. There have seemingly been multiple resets and vast technology destroyed and hidden. Yeah, Hankowitz. On that note, I thought I was going to die one night in college years ago, over 10 years ago now. Thought I was going to die, overdosed on some shit. And I thought, oh, well, I'm going to die. I'm not going to bother calling an ambulance. It's kind of too embarrassing. I'm just going to lay in the bed and put my hands over my body. So when they come get me, I'll have done pissed and shit myself. And I'm already rigor mortisized in a corpse position. They'll just scoop me up. It'd be much easier for them to clean me up. I was not really scared to die. I was okay about it. I was just like, oh, well, it's kind of embarrassing. And during that experience, vision came to me of this world, and it was a top-down view, and it was a realm. It was a circular Earth with mountains everywhere and grass, geography, and water. It was basically, before I was any kind of flat Earth, it was like a flat Earth map. It was a realm, a little chunk of this land that we all stay on, and all the countries and all the people, and I couldn't see anybody or any buildings. It was just landscape. And this chunk of Earth, there was at one point missiles, big nukes, there's explosions and fire and mountains crumbling and then water everywhere, and it's like it reset. The water flooded, and after the fires, the water flooded and reset, and all the land started popping up from the oceans again, and it went through cycles of that multiple times. So I do believe this place has been reset, and the people that emerge are gonna take over the world if they are connected Christ consciously. Like, they have the answers to know how to do it. There's no question on how to do it. They just go around and collect followers, aka become disciples, and do their best to recreate everything as we know it today. But it keeps getting perverted. It's forces of evil that come and get in us all, and slowly, once they get in us, they change our mind, and then through our mind they change our actions. That's why we have all this brainwashing going on. That's why there's all this crap music and shit and TV, and this is brainwashing, hypnotizing us. Really, hypnosis is a thing. We're all under forms of hypnosis and brainwash to change our minds, to then change our actions, and once they have that, they have control of our soul. Basically, this is a war for our souls. No doubt. Doc says, yep, Bavaria showed me tons of my research. Really? Hankowitz, not sure if I've seen any of John Levi's work, but the architecture tells us a lot. It's so cool. People like you and John Levi are putting this stuff together. Much appreciated. Me, I can't even take credit for this wonderful video. This, this isn't mine if you're in front of me here, but I know what I vibe with, and when I was watching this video, I kept getting goosebumps. I had to stop it every 5 minutes because my body, I was just getting goosebumps. That's my spiritual sign to tell me something I'm hearing is right, and I need to pay attention, and I actually store that somewhere in my brain. History is not my strong point. Reading is, in a way, my strong point because I read perfectly, but I don't store it, and I'm very I don't store bullshit. I only store things that really mean something. So that's the thing with me. And wait till you watch probably Alexandra. I'm going to do it tonight, right after the stream. Definitely going to do that, Earth Pond. Yep, the satanic influence took advantage of all those oblivious of cult knowledge. Hankowitz, this is truly revelation, the apocalypse, and the like, simply revealing the hidden truth. It's a great time to be alive. Yeah, I'll die for it, man. Like, there may be a time when the cops, the FBI, the CIA start knocking on my door because they want me to shut up. I'm not going to shut up. And they're going to threaten me. If they threaten me, I'm going to say, come on, bring your army. You're going to need it. Because I've already had situations where two huge 300-pound each guy had like 500 pounds of humans trying to wrestle me, and they couldn't pick me up off the floor. I'm 113 pounds. I just weighed myself at the doctor's last week or earlier this week, whatever. 113 pounds. Like, that's small. I'm 5'3", 113 pounds, and these guys could not lift me up off the ground. I can lift 113 pounds off the ground. I'm pretty sure I could lift it if I had a friend, for sure. But no, I couldn't. I was like a statue. And I mean, I've had experiences like that I can't physically explain it, can't logically explain it. I just know when they were trying to do that, I felt bad for them. I felt pity for them, for they know not what they're doing. Like, that it wasn't truly them doing it. They were controlled by this evil that had gotten into their souls, and they wanted to manhandle somebody, and they were going to choose me as that target. And if I would have fought back and elbowed him and poked him in the eye or whatever, I would have lost the ability to stand there like a statue stuck to the ground. I would have lost that ability. If I had vengeance and anger and fight back in my thought form, they would have easily manhandled me. But I didn't. I looked at them very sad for their affliction that they did not know they had. And I looked at them like if they were not afflicted, they would be much, much more pure humans. And I knew that it was an impurity attacking me, and I was in my most pure form of thought. So good triumphs over evil. You see where I'm going with that? I hope that makes sense, guys. That's the secret power. Now, I'm not saying I can go in a jiu-jitsu competition and steamroll everybody, because that would be me testing my mettle and a show of my ego. No, I'd get my ass rolled. But if any jiu-jitsu master, karate dojo, special ops, or whatever had anger in his heart, and I'm vibing at that high level, when I'm in that Christ consciousness mode, I'd dodge every punch. I wouldn't try to hit back. If he grabbed me, he'd do nothing but grab me. If he could squeeze, it would probably hurt his fingernails more than my skin, that kind of stuff. I've had people try to hit me and I dodge and they break their fingers. I've had people hit me in my chest and I let them until they stopped and they hold their hands in pain. Stuff I've been through. Love your brother, love one another. Realize that all evil is not of their own mind. It's their imperfections, their demons, their entities that are in them for various reasons and various past traumas and various current decisions. Pretty cool when you get into that zone. You can lower your heartbeat to 1 or 2 a minute and realize you don't even need to breathe if you don't want to. Yeah. I sure didn't need food for 3 weeks, I think, through that Jesus period. I didn't eat. I didn't even need sleep. I had all the energy I needed. I felt great. I felt pure. I felt like I just wanted to go walk around and help people. The only time I ever ingested anything in my body was when I walked out in the sun and my body got hot, I guess. I wasn't physically uncomfortable. I just was overcome by the need to hydrate. I was like, all of a sudden, wow, I got to have water now. And I talked about that experience on We Are Magical, either part 1 or part 2. Very interesting video there. Yeah. James Rink was one of the 3 super soldiers that stayed with me, including Max Spears. See, I've been thinking of Max Spears too. That's been popping in my head. Boom, boom, boom. Every time I think and talk about this kind of stuff, the word super soldier comes up, and then immediately after that is Max Spears. So I'm interested to know some stuff about Max Spears. I'm going to take that link there and copy that as well. Absolutely, that one and the one that Earthpond shared. I'm going to watch that video on probably Alexandra's channel. Yeah. So anyway, guys, if you don't mind me asking, how long ago did this happen? The experience with the 2 people trying to pick me up, that happened over 10 years ago now. But the experience where I kicked the nurse into a wall and sent 2 burly security guards fully armed and 3 other doctors and nurses. There was 4 men and 1 lady, all trying to hold me down. I overpowered all of them. The old lady, she was like 60. She stuck me. And as soon as she stuck me, I threw the syringe, smacked to the wall. I kicked her 5 feet. She went flying, and all 4 of the other guys, they all ran. They ran away. That was a year and a half ago. It was a year and a half ago. The girlfriend I was with she did not heed my advice, and she ended up going through a very, very traumatic experience where she was stuck in a trap house, drugged and raped for a week and a half. And when she came out of that, she called me as the first person to come rescue her. And when she got to my house that night, I tried to do Reiki on her, and I ended up pulling out a demon. And when it came back in, all hell broke loose, literally. All hell broke loose. And that video of her in that moment is on Trolls vs. Trolls YouTube channel. She's in the back of the cop car going live on my cell phone, which in no other circumstance could ever go live that far away from my internet router. It was never able to go live on the 3G shitty connection it's got. I can't even make a FaceTime call from the phone's internet connection. But that sucker was 100% good in back of the cop car to live stream that experience. You can go watch that. I played a little bit of that episode on the We Are Magical stream, part 2, was it? You got to watch those. We Are Magical part 1 and part 2, and the self-exorcism video. Those are 3 good videos. If you like hearing about me talk about any of this unconditional love and spiritual stuff and demons, you go watch those videos. I talked about all of the amazing, miraculous stories and healings and crazy things I can't explain in those 3 videos. So, that's the reason why I am who I am and saying the things I say. Doc Michael, I had 2 police officers and 1 ambulance attendant disappear into thin air so I could talk to a dead man that came back to life. Woo! I got goosebumps. Goosebumps from that, Doc. We are here to look after others. Yeah, and if we have pure love in our heart, we can perform miracles. It's like an aura force field or something. Yeah, I believe it. I had some serious energetic experiences in the past. Hankowitz says, peeking out about 6 years ago or so, I knocked the power out of my house with 2 friends present, manipulating a ball of energy. Ooh, nice. Nice. Back in high school, I used to mess with balls of energy and make people's hands tingle or make their hands and fingers move a little bit. And, I call them parlor tricks. There was some people that made fun of me for doing that. And, one was in a class and one was in a school bus. And I did the same thing on both of those people. I asked permission if I could make it hurt and have them put their hand in between mine. And they were like, yeah, sure. So I just made the hottest ball of energy I could ever muster up. And as soon as they put their hand in, they whipped it back out like, oh, wow, it's hot, man. I never saw those 3 people again the rest of my entire life. They both, the guy on the bus never rode the bus anymore. He skipped out. He got the fuck off my bus. And the other 2 people left that class. They switched classes entirely. I never saw them again. I believe it, Hankowitz. I've been to some crazy experiences myself. Around the 12th of December, I got 3 signs showing me the return of the Care Man. Library of Alexandria is an inner library. It will resurface. Interesting. I'm 6'4" and about 220, and my winter backpack is about 80 pounds. Or is the size of my backpack. I'm not much different than the size of your backpack, bro. If I were to be on your back, wrapped around like that, you'd probably not even feel me. I'd be, yeah. But yeah, we're magical people, and that's why I titled that video, We Are Magical. Those 2 videos. And I had to get my story out, all my stories out, and it's okay if people don't believe me or think I'm crazy. I've taught people how to heal with their hands, and they've gone to do that themselves, and it's changed their life. So anyway, I don't want to make this too long. Looks like it's way too long already. I didn't even have a clue. It's been on for 1 hour and 46 minutes. It was only a 46-minute video. I've been talking for an hour? Jesus. All right, guys. I hope y'all have a good night. Much love to everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out. Earth Pond, Doc Michael, Alexander Lightwater, Hankowitz. You guys awesome. THC, if you're still in here, Mike. Thanks for showing some love. You guys check out THC, Truthers Hour of Comedy on YouTube. Go sub up. We're going to be doing some VR flat smacks. The pioneering of virtual reality flat smacks right here with yours truly and Mike from THC channel. It's been fun, and we're going to bring that back and do another show, maybe even tomorrow. I don't know. I can't be on a schedule for anything, so it's kind of hard to get myself to do that, especially when I don't have the things that I need to feel very, very motivated. Tonight, I just planned on watching the rest of this video by myself, but I was like, no, I'm gonna start streaming the videos like this that are about Saint Germain and talking about them. I think this was very productive. I really like what you brought to the table, Mike, tonight, and Earth Pond and everybody. So thanks for hanging out in the chat. Much love, guys. I will see you another time. You know me. I'm here to save the world. Who's with me? Peace.
Fighting the machine, fighting the machine, fighting the machine, fighting the machine. machine.